Welcome to I Got a Guy podcast, a podcast carefully designed to introduce a wide range of very talented and highly skilled professionals ready to share their knowledge and advice with you. Please welcome the host of I Got a Guy podcast, Michael Drelichars.
Hello and welcome to I Got a Guy podcast. I'm your host, Michael Drelichars. Thank you so much for being with us. And boy, I have missed chatting with all of you, and I've missed meeting with so many business owners and business leaders throughout the area. I took a few months off from recording, frankly, because my business got really, really busy, and I just couldn't fit the time in, and I'm disappointed for that because I really enjoy chatting with all of you, and I really enjoy meeting with business leaders from the area in all different walks of life and different industry segments, and hearing their stories. Not only stories of how they got started, but how their business is growing, or what they perceive and hope for the future, and how it might grow going forward. So I really, really enjoy that aspect of it. And like I said, disappointed that we had to take a break for a few weeks, but I am back. And thank you for subscribing and listening to us and sharing the podcast amongst your circles of influence. Today is no different than any other podcast that we've done. First of all, I will remind you all that we did get this started after reading a book called The Go-Giver by Bob Burg. Great book, great lessons woven into the story. And as you know, one of the things we do here is I try to identify a law of stratospheric success that matches with our guest for the week. This week, I like to focus on the law of value, which is defined by give more in value than you receive in payment. Give more in value than you receive in payment. And when I think about this law is really, it's the number one law. It's the first law on the list. I think it's a really important law. And I know when I work with my business customers, serving them with the GPS tracking, I focus more on how I help their business grow than I worry about offering a discount. Everyone likes to get a discount and likes to pay a little bit less for their products and services. But if I can help a business grow and add a couple more customers, that value to the business is far greater than a couple dollar discount on a product or service. So that's really, I think it's a really important aspect, and I think most business owners really appreciate that as well and understand how valuable a referral would be. This podcast is really set to do that as well. So we're gonna meet our guest here in a moment and get into details with her business, but I want to make sure that if you want to listen to any of our past podcasts, you can go to our website, which is igotaguypodcast.com. See a list of all of our past episodes. You can watch us as well. If you prefer to watch versus listen, we are uploaded to YouTube and to Rumble. So feel free to download or view our podcasts on those platforms. But you can also listen to us on a whole host of audio platforms, about 15, I think now. But all the popular podcast platforms, you just do a lookup for I Got a Guy podcast, and you'll find us there. And I do really encourage you to share this with your friends. If you know somebody, as we get into our discussion today, if you know somebody that fits the mold of what we're talking about, I really encourage you to share this podcast with your friends. We're going to have it out on our social media platforms, and encourage you to share it any way you can. That's really how businesses grow. So that's some of the housekeeping aspects. I'd like us to get into this podcast now and get started with the real meat of the discussion here. So today we are welcoming a new friend of mine that I've met recently, but have had such deep conversations. I feel like we've known each other for years, not weeks. It's really kind of amazing. But I'd like to introduce Bema Mametjanova from IA Business Advisors. Bema, did I pronounce your last name correctly?
You did, Michael, and thank you so much for the introduction. I'll tell you that a lot of people don't even try to pronounce my last name, but so thank you so much for not even butchering it. That was perfect.
Okay, well, great. I did practice a little bit. Um, Bema, you're a young gal here working for IE Business Advisors, and they're a management consulting firm, right?
Yes, we
So
are a boutique management consulting firm.
that's great. So can you take a moment and briefly paint a broad brush picture of what IE Business Advisors is, how they work with businesses and what type of businesses? And then I'd like to get from there, kind of dig a little deeper into what really makes IE Business Advisors unique and different than other run-of-the-mill management consulting firms.
Absolutely. Thank you so much again, Michael, for inviting me to this podcast. I'm really excited to have another chat with you. Like you said, we had a conversation that went into all kinds of directions, and it was just interesting to get to know you a little bit and come back for the second conversation. But a little bit about IA Business Advisors. We're a boutique management consulting firm here in Elgin. The funny thing about us is we have over 1,700 clients over the 29 years that we've been around, and most of them are actually outside of our Illinois area.
Really?
They're across the US and they're also international. And so in the last 2 years, our effort has been really to bring it back home. Our founder, Brian Smith, is actually from Illinois, from West ND, which is 5 minutes from Elgin. And so our efforts have really been, how can we grow the community around us? How can we support local business owners? How can we elevate everybody around us to make sure that we are all successful? Because as you're talking about the book, Go Giver, there's so many great valuable nuggets in there, and it is really about abundance, right? There's enough for everybody, and once everybody else succeeds, we all succeed together. And so our goal is really to help business owners go from where they are to where they want to be. And that can mean anything. That can mean scaling a business, increasing their sales, improving their processes, hiring new people, and then streamlining everything. So really anything from strategy, operations, accounting and finance, down to HR, culture, and leadership development. So what makes IA unique is that our philosophy is really built upon individual advantages of everybody we come into contact with. IA literally stands for individual advantages, because a lot of time it's a little bit cryptic, so people don't really know what it stands for unless we really talk about it. But our culture is really built upon what is our individual advantage and how can we capitalize on it? How can we bring value by focusing on our strengths and identifying the strengths of others so that we can build those synergies together and really help each other succeed? And that's really what IA Business Advisors is about.
That's amazing. That's awesome. It's remarkable. 1,700 clients in 29 years.
Right.
That's tremendous success.
Thank
And
you.
you obviously must have a large contingency of business experts behind the scenes, crunching the numbers, working on the HR functions or other things, correct?
Absolutely. We have a local team here in Elgin, Illinois, but we also have a large network across the US and internationally. I always like to say we will do our best to solve a problem for a business owner, but if we can't do that, we will find someone who can. Our network is truly really expansive, and we try to make sure we can bring value to our clients in any way we can. And you also mentioned a referral is sometimes it can be just a phone call. It can just be an email. It's such a simple act, but at the same time, it means so much when it comes from someone you trust, someone you know, and someone who knows your business and who can help you identify that need and really connect you to the right person. And so we try to play well in the sandbox with other professionals. Like I said, we try to capitalize on our strengths, but if we find someone who is better at something than we are, we will make sure to make that reference in our network.
Yeah, that's tremendous. And the one thing that I know I love working with small businesses. I really believe that small businesses are the foundation of our economy, foundation of our country. And I've heard the stat. I don't remember the exact details, but I know a vast majority of employed individuals throughout our country work for small businesses, not the Fortune 100.
Hmm.
So it's really, really important that small businesses thrive and grow and continue to serve because it really is that fabric that kind of keeps us all connected and keeps everything moving. So, and the other thing I'd mention is um, because I'm a small business owner, I like to work with small businesses, and I feel that I have an empathetic approach because I've been there where these small businesses have been. I know about the sleepless nights and the challenges and wondering how do we get through this challenge? And every day it might be a different challenge, and it might come from so many different angles, but it's more about your character and how do you solve these problems. And some people, a lot of business owners don't have that resource to solve this, so they flounder, and their business kind of stays in a holding pattern. But to have somebody like yourself to come in and be a resource where somebody can reach out to you and say, Bema, I'm having a challenge here, whether it's an HR compliance issue, whether it's a quality service issue, whether it's a fulfillment issue, a sales issue. I mean, there's really, I mean, you cover the entire spectrum, correct? Of
We
business
do.
challenges. So a business owner, all they need to do is know that if I have a challenge, I call Bema, right? And then you
Right.
will then sit and you will figure out what is the challenge, and then who do we bring in here? Who do we fold in to address this and identify the process by which we get out of this predicament that the business owner's in.
Right. And to your point, Michael, a lot of the time, small business owners, they are operating very lean operations, right? They rely a lot on themselves. And like you mentioned, the sleepless nights, being in 10 different directions at the same time and trying to manage all of these competing priorities is very challenging. And we understand it no better than any other because we are a small local business like yourself and like many
Right.
of our clients. So when we come in and have a conversation with a potential client or with a client of ours, we really try to play a fractional C-suite role. So these local
Great.
businesses, small businesses, they don't always need a full-on CFO, for example. They're not quite there, but they do need someone who can advise them on how do I make the best out of my financial systems? How can I draw insights from my financial information? What can I do to get me from where I am to the growth that I'm actually envisioning for myself? And what we do, we come in and we play that fractional CFO role, and we help business owners create that path towards the dream that they're trying to achieve. So, for example, some of our clients come in and say, I want to 10x my business in the next 2 years. That's great. We love the ambition. We love the envisioning, and we support that wholeheartedly. However, from a financial perspective, we always try to be smart, right? The smart management program is another philosophy that we're heavily promoting and advocating for because of the simplicity and the beauty of it. So whenever a business owner comes to us and they want to scale their business, we immediately ask very relevant questions and specific questions so that we can understand, can your business handle this growth right now? Do you have enough support and enough personnel in your team to support this growth? Do you need to purchase equipment? Do you need to, get a loan from a bank? All of these questions come into play when a business owner is trying to scale. And so we try to play that role of an advisor from the side, depending on how the business owner wants us to be involved. We try to play that advisor on the side to make sure that we can ask these relevant questions so that the business owner can really um, understand their situation, right? It goes back to, am I ready for that? Is my business ready for that? And so we help create that path. We don't want to stump this ambition. We want to actually create the path towards that dream. Okay, let's 10x the business. Maybe it'll take a couple more years. It'll take these tweaks here and there. You might need to hire someone, purchase equipment, et cetera, but we will help you get there. And that's the beauty of our firm because we will play that fractional role.
Okay. So then, and that's a real good point because 10x your business sounds awesome. If you have a $200,000 a month, $200,000 a year business, and you think, well, I'd like to be a $2 million business. That's a great idea. but there's an awful lot that goes in between 200,000 and 2 million. I mean,
Right.
there's a lot of, whether it be personnel and inventory and processes that
Mhm.
have to change in order to do that. So, do you help your clients then break that down and have maybe shorter, more short-term goals? So if you're at, you know, $500,000 in revenue at the end of the year, maybe you want to grow to $750,000 or $1 million, kind of take it in smaller chunks, and then figure out what do you need to do to get to that level, and then what do you need to get to the next level.
Right. So, when you say 200,000 to 2 million, it sounds great on paper and it's very inspiring. However, you're also going to have $2 million problems, right? Like what really goes into that $2 million revenue? You have to be prepared for that. And so when
Yes.
I say we help business owners get from where they are to where they want to be, we first have to start with where are they currently? We have to identify what is going on in a business? What kind of gaps exist that prevent the business owners to get to the X number of dollars or X number of revenue, X number of employees or clients? What is really preventing the business owner from getting there? And we usually do that through our process called Biz Vision process. That is a trademark process that we have. It is a lengthy questionnaire that we have a business owner go through, which identifies, what are my operations? What is my financial situation? How am I marketing my business? How are my sales? How am I getting clients right now? And basically just mapping out where is the business right now. And from there, we would be able to identify the gaps and then help the business owner make recommendations on how to get to that next level. And from there, of course, it becomes very apparent that these are the things I need to prioritize right now. And what do I really need to do? For example, one of the business owners, she really wanted to, she's passionate about her business, but she wanted to retire in the next 5 years. And so, which was an interesting case because, it can be a challenging situation where a business owner wants to give basically, their heart and the hard work and everything that they put into the business. What do they do so that it continues to succeed after the business owner leaves the company, for example? So we helped her go through the biz vision process. We identified where she is, what is her HR situation, what kind of processes does she have? Does she have enough employees to support that next level growth or even the transition of her because she plays a key role in the business? She's basically the backbone of the business, like many business owners are. And so through that process, we were able to identify opportunities and areas for improvement that now we are helping her transition through the next 2, 3 years, making a plan, like you're mentioning, breaking it down into small chunks, focusing on one area of the business at a time, and then really helping her map that journey so that she feels calm and confident about whoever takes on the business next. She knows that the business will continue succeeding like she meant it to be.
Yeah, yeah, that's a tremendously stressful process, I can imagine, for the business owner because uh, in my business, I'm a very small business as well, and those dreams of retirement, and I work with a lot of small businesses that are in a similar boat. They may be in their 70s, and they might be a plumber, they might be an electrician, and they're very good at their craft. And
Right.
they went off and they decided to hang a shingle and be the man and be the business owner, but never had that business background or experience. They're good at their craft. They know how to do their job. And being able to take all that knowledge, first of all, there might be a gap in some areas that you don't ever know because maybe you didn't go to business school or have that formal education. But then when you get to that point of wanting to retire or transition the business, whether it be to a family member or to somebody outside the family, that knowledge transfer and there's so much that the owner has in their head in most cases, I think, not necessarily written down and documented, that
Right.
makes it really, it's got to be a challenge. So your process could take many months to complete for these business owners, correct? This is not a quick, 2, 3 day kind of project. This could be a lengthy project by going through the process, right?
Right. And I think it is a lengthy process, but it is done that way by design because, Rome was not built in a day. It takes time, it takes effort to really because, the business owner took time to build it. It can be a 10-year business, 10-year-old business, a 20-year-old business, and it can be a vast system that was created. And how can you really transition that within a span of a week? It's really challenging to do that. So we will do our best, of course. If the client is really wanting to sell the business tomorrow, we can try to do that, but we don't recommend it because
Of
first
course
of
not.
all, you really need to understand what is the business about? What is the true value here? How can we, like you said, take everything from the business owner's mind and then document everything? How can we really help the next person succeed in this business, right? And that's done through a meticulous process of let's document everything, let's build out the systems, let's write up the contracts, let's hire the right people who will actually support the business the way you actually want them to support it. And so it can take months or it can take a couple of years, but
Right.
depending on the business owner's comfort, I think it's better to take that slow and steady approach, make it a very planned strategic process because then we can really make sure that business is set up for success as
Right.
the business owner transitions out of it.
I couldn't agree with you more. And I know a number of businesses that even something as simple as their financials, may not be as tight, let's call it tight, as they need to be. Their balance
Right.
sheet may not be as clean, their P&L. There might be just a lack of some documentation. And I know for a fact when you're selling a business, and I've had a business broker on my podcast a couple times now. The financials are really, really important. If you're looking to buy a business, it's one of the first things you ask for is let me see the financials of the business. Let me see how healthy the business is.
Hmm.
And I know I've spoken with business owners that have a quote unquote healthy business, but it's not represented in the financials of the business.
Absolutely.
And so I can imagine, and I know you have a financial background, but I can imagine a big part of what you do is tackling that component, right? Making sure
Yes.
that the financials really truly represent all that's going on in the business from a revenue standpoint, from an expense standpoint. The balance sheet is clean, so that you can actually put forth the truest picture to a potential successor.
Yes. And you're right, Michael. Financial statements are truly a representation of a business. It's almost like a resume of the business
Right.
because whatever you're trying to sell a business or even get a loan to scale your business, that's the first thing any person will ask you. Well, where are you right now? Can we see 2, 3 years of your financials? Can we see 2, 3 years of your tax returns? And if there is, let's say it's not as tight as you want it to be, it can be a little bit of challenge to actually get to that point that you want. And so we worked a lot with business owners who are in this situation. They could have been even working with another accountant, and they, at some point they realized, what, I'm not really getting what I want out of this. Maybe the accountant is not as skilled as they thought they are, and they go to a bank and realize, actually my books are not as tight as I thought. So they come to us and they help, get a second set of eyes on it at least.
Yeah.
And sometimes business owners, they've done their books themselves because, a lot of times it's really challenging to find the right person who can help you with your bookkeeping, especially when you're smaller and you're just starting out. A lot of the business owners handle it themselves. But
Mhm.
there usually comes a point where the business becomes too big, right, for the business owner to handle themselves. And so they really need to bring in another person who can actually handle it for them. So what we've seen a lot with our clients is, they come to us and say, help me clean up my QuickBooks, help me set it up for me. I've been running my business for 7 years, but I don't have my QuickBooks set up. Or I used it before and I stopped it for 2, 3 years and I don't know where I am. I don't know how much I'm making. I don't even know if I can pay myself. I'm paying everybody under the sun, but I'm not paying myself a salary. And so this is a big problem, right? Because
Wow.
financials are really almost like a thermometer of your business. You can say, I'm making this much in revenue, but my margins are so low and I end up, not even paying myself. And I, I pay everybody else, like I said. So what we help with business owners is we help clean up all of their financials. We get it to a perfect state of how it should be so that they can go to the banks and represent their business, so that they can talk to a potential buyer who's going to be confident in the numbers.
Right.
And it not only helps you feel confident, but it can also increase the value of your business,
100%.
right? And I'm sure you've experienced that as well as you were going through your own process of, working on the balance sheets or P&Ls. And as a business owner, I think it's one of the key aspects to manage your finances properly.
Yeah, most definitely. And like I said, a lot of the businesses that I work with, they're not financial gurus, and frankly, I'm not either. I have a college education, and I did take some financial course, some accounting courses, but that's not my strength. I'm not a numbers guy. I do a lot of things, and I wear a lot of hats. But one of the things that I learned is a couple years ago, I started outsourcing some of these functions. So I don't
Hmm.
necessarily have in-house resources, but I've outsourced my bookkeeping, and I rely on a really good accountant to kind of make sure that the book, they're two different individuals, two different companies. So the
Hmm.
accountant can check on the work the bookkeeper is doing and make sure that everything's clean. And because I have some OCD tendencies. Really some of the details really get bog me down, frankly, but I know how important it is. And the worst thing that happens, and I've talked with a few different business brokers. The worst thing that I've seen happen is if your books are, your business might be very profitable, but if your books are not clean, you will net less in a sale than if your books are clean, because there's a skepticism.
Hmm.
People don't necessarily, oh, well, this is wrong. What else is wrong? And I
Hmm.
and there you get some pressure on, reducing the sale price just to get it sold. And so as a business owner, the last thing you want to do is give your business away for less than it's really worth, just because you didn't have your financials in order, as one
Hmm.
example. So
Right.
these things and the functions that you all do here at IA Business Advisors really are so crucial to helping every business owner. Every business owner has a dream. They all have big lofty dreams of what they think their business is worth or what it can do, who it's going to serve, how it's going to be. We need it to be solid, and you can help these business owners kind of get their arms around it and make it really, really solid and tight and profitable and growing and able to be sold for a nice multiple.
Yes, you're absolutely right, Michael. And like I said, financials are typically a resume of a business. And if one piece is not where it should be, it's very apparent. And like you said, it can reduce that value or the expectation of what goes behind the scenes. Um, and you're completely right. We do help business owners feel confident about what they're doing because they know their craft, they know their business, and they know how well it can operate. But we also want to make sure the world knows about it as well.
And potential suitors, future suitors. That's great.
Right.
Well, thank you for going through that. We went a little long on that, but I was really wanted to make sure we got into those details because it's just an awesome topic. And thank you for serving all these 1,700 clients to date. That's great. Um, we're going to take a quick break here. Before we do that, can you share your contact information? What's the best way for somebody that's listening to us say, gee, yeah, I really need to talk to Bema because I need some help in this area? How do they reach out to you best?
Yes, you can give me a call if you ever wanted to have a conversation about what's going on in your business, or if you just wanted to learn about all the services that we provide. You can always give me a call. My phone number is 224-856-3309. That's 224-856-3309. Or you can always send me an email. It's Bema, Bema, at iabusinessadvisors.com. Or you can also go to our website, iabusinessadvisors.com. You can also learn all about our amazing team, our founder, Brian Smith, our partners, and everybody who serves our clients. Everything's going to be on our website. You can also, similar to you, Michael, our founder, Brian Smith, and our partner, Greg Colino, they do have a podcast that they run on a daily basis. So you can also learn about that on our website.
That's great.
IA business advisors.
That's great. Well, I'm going to put this information up on the screen for our viewers to watch or to read and notate. It'll also be in the show notes that if you go to our website at igotaguypodcast.com, you'll be able to get Bema's contact information and reach out to her directly. And as I mentioned frequently, when you do reach out to Bema, make sure you tell her that you heard about her here on I Got a Guy podcast. So then she can get back to me and tell me how successful the podcast was for her. So
Absolutely.
anyway, we're gonna take a quick break. We'll be back in a minute, and then we'll continue. We want to talk about some specific successes that Bema, you and your firm have experienced, so our business owners can kind of maybe get their arms around some of the solutions that you've been able to provide in the past. So we'll be right back, and we'll continue with Bema Mametjanova from IA Business Advisors. Be right back.
We certainly hope you're enjoying this week's episode, and we'll return to this week's guest in just a moment. But now a message from our sponsor, Precise Fleet Tracking Solutions. If you own a fleet of vehicles, even if it's just 2 or 3 vehicles, GPS tracking is an important component for every vehicle. Here are the 5 top reasons companies invest in GPS tracking: driver safety, vehicle location, driver behavior, proof of service, and monitoring vehicle maintenance. Precise Fleet Tracking Solutions can enhance your growth and profit through the use of GPS tracking technology. Reach out to Precise Fleet Tracking Solutions at www.precisefleettracking.com. That's precisefleettracking.com. Or call 847-865-6008. That's 847-865-6008. Precise Fleet Tracking Solutions. GPS tracking made simple. Now, let's get back to the show.
Okay, we are back. Thank you for sticking with us. I am Michael Drelichars, host of I Got a Guy podcast. I also own Precise Fleet Tracking Solutions, and we'll touch on that a little bit later here at the end of the show. Obviously, you just heard the commercial from our firm, but we are here today with Bema from IA Business Advisors. We've had a great conversation thus far, and we want to first of all welcome you to the show again, Bema. Thank you for being part of this today. Hope you're enjoying it.
Thank you so much, Michael, for inviting me.
Absolutely. So, first half of the show, we talked a lot about IE Business Advisors and the type of services that you provide to small and medium-sized businesses. One question that I realized I didn't ask is what is the range, or what's the range of business you work with? I'm assuming it's based on revenue, but what is your call it your sweet spot, your target market?
Yes. Michael, like I said, we are a small business ourselves, and we do want to go give back to the community and make sure we can elevate everybody around us. So we typically work with anybody who is just starting out and they need support in, let's say it's QuickBooks, let's say it's, help me find a lawyer, or, what kind of corporate structure do I pick? We can help a business owner at a startup stage, but also if they're trying to sell the business or retire from the business. So anything in the range, we can help with. But I think ideally our clients typically fall in $500,000 to up to $15 to $20 million in revenues.
Revenue. Okay.
Yes.
Okay. And that's a pretty wide spans, 500,000 up to 15 million. There's a lot of businesses in that range.
Right.
That's great. Okay, that was the one thing that I realized during our break that I forgot to ask. So thanks for clarifying that.
Sure.
So, can you share for us a few examples of solutions? You touched on the one business that wanted to provide for succession planning. You touched on that briefly in the first half, but can you go into some more detail generically about some of the solutions you've been able to provide?
Yes, absolutely. So similar to that, we had another client who went through our BizVision process, and we helped them understand their business better, map out the gaps that we're seeing in the current operations and the gaps in where they want to be, and really help them develop the recommendations to get them to that next level. From there, they actually turned into a consistent client of ours, and we do provide accounting services as well as tax filing services for them. They've been with us for 2 years now. And they're not even located in Illinois. They're located all the way in Delaware. It is a real estate company, and they have multiple holdings that we help them basically track in their accounting and finance side. That's one of the examples, and a lot of the clients of ours go through a similar process. Like I mentioned, they either had an accountant that they're not really happy with, or they have never had an accountant and they need someone to help them make sense of their numbers. And so they come to us, and we either help set up QuickBooks or any other system that they prefer, or we help them clean up their QuickBooks to get them to that next level of, I want to present my financials to a bank, to a potential buyer. And one of the success cases that I always like to talk about is a company also located in a different state. They've been operating since 2007, so they've been around for almost 20 years. Very successful business. However, after having a conversation with them, we've identified that there's an opportunity to turn this into a franchise. And so we've been working with this business owner, as well as multiple locations that actually got together and decided to form a franchise. So it's been over 2 years now that we've been communicating with this group of people, group of business owners, and we help them, like we were talking, what is going on in their mind, and how can we make it a process? How can we take years and years of experience? How can we streamline this and basically create a bible of this franchise, and how can we pass it on to the next person who wants to also own the franchise and wants to be as successful as they are. And truly it's been a very rewarding process, because you see how from nothing it turns into a huge company, right? And
Sure.
at this point they have 19 locations across the US, and we are continuing to grow and expand the operations for them. And so, like I mentioned, there's so many moving pieces in there. We're looking at the operations and creating a huge manual of all of the business processes that worked over the years for multiple locations, basically taking the best practices and then putting it all in a concentrated form into an operations manual. We're helping them streamline their financial management and helping them identify opportunities for growth, and look at the insights of how the business is doing right now. What levers do we really need to push on to make sure that it grows to that next level? What are the gaps that we're seeing that they need to fix to continue growing? And from a culture and leadership development, that's a huge deal as well, because as you can imagine, 20 business owners coming together, everybody has an opinion, everybody is a business owner for a reason, because they have the ambition, because they have a vision. And so helping navigate creating that safe environment where people can express their opinions and find common ground to really help each other succeed, because one location succeeds, the rest of the locations succeed. And so to summarize that, working with this franchise that we helped create for over 2 years now has been very, very rewarding. And, seeing how it was just a kindling now into an actual full-blown franchise is just amazing. And I always like to give that example just to show everything that IA business advisors can help with.
Yeah, that's a tremendous example, because when you think about, I owned a franchise in the past. Before my precisely tracking business, I did own a franchise, and the advantage of owning a franchise is it's systematized.
Mm-hmm.
So as a business owner, you don't have to go out and identify every component that you need in order to serve your clients. You walk in, you sign your franchise disclosure document, and you get a manual or a series of manuals that tell you, A to Z, what you need to do to be successful. And you know, you still need to put, as a business owner, you still need to put a lot of your own self into that business. But
Mm-hmm.
the basic blocking and tackling is all identified for you in this manual. And so with your franchise owner, um, if they're able to do that, now they can grow without having to, you know, be a company owned. I mean, every location being company owned, which is a whole different task.
Mm-hmm.
So it's that's tremendous. And they are throughout the country. Are they local here in the Chicago area?
Yes, we're across, let me give you the right number. We're across 15 states in the US. So
15
all the way
different
from
ones.
California to New Hampshire, Texas, we are here in Illinois as well. So everything in the range, we have a location. The client has a location there.
That's great. So do you help that business then market their business also, or are you just like behind the scenes kind of helping them build out the franchise model?
Oh no, absolutely. Like I mentioned, we help in all aspects of the business. Actually, one of our representatives, one of our team members is going to be a representative at trade shows, for example, or, talking to potential franchisees. So we do really have full immersive experience with the franchisor. And not just on the floor when we're talking to potential franchisees at the trade shows, but also on the marketing side. We help streamline all of the processes, make sure that each location has the SEO set up, and they have the website that is streamlined for the franchise. We can help them develop
Yeah.
the marketing strategy and, everything under the sun. It's our responsibility to help the franchise succeed.
So you really are a teammate with this franchisor. You guys
Exactly.
work in
Yes.
lockstep.
We walk with them in the same direction. We live and breathe this franchise language. We're fully immersed in whatever is going on with this franchise.
Well, that's tremendous. That is remarkable. And I've never known, how somebody would take a business and get to that level of franchising it, because that's a big leap. There's a lot that goes into it. It's great to know that I business advisors can do something that significant. I mean, you can help on a smaller scale, but you go that significant to help a business become a franchise. That's remarkable.
Thank you. Thank you, Michael.
When I think about, in my small business, I wear multiple hats.
I'm
And
sure you do.
one of the challenges I have, and I've started to outsource a couple components here and there. And I didn't do more, frankly. But I get I'm at a point where I got so much going on, and I'm literally working, 12, 14 hours a day because, I have to deal with inventory and I got to do prospecting and I got to install the units and I got to deal with the billing of the clients and I got to take care of customer service and all the back office stuff as well. So
Hmm.
I find that I don't have time to think about what's the next thing to outsource because I'm too busy doing the actual tasks.
Right.
So can IA business advisors come in and when you say you have this profile, this document that you have to fill out, multiple page document,
Hmm.
does that by answering those questions, does that give you the details that you need to be able to sit down with a solopreneur like myself and say, okay, you're wearing 14 hats. We're going to help you take three of those off and outsource these things. Is that kind of one of the things you do?
Yes, the process that you're mentioning, the BizVision process, it is a 20-page document. So we fully understand that it is quite a commitment from a business owner, to really take a step back and look at the business as like a separate entity because, when you're wearing 14 hats, you are the business, right? You're
Right.
like enmeshed into everything. And so this business BizVision process really helps you take a step back, look at the business as an entity and really be as objective as possible. And we also help you be that objective set of eyes that can really help you identify, what's going on. Because sometimes when you're in the middle of things, you don't really notice them as much anymore because you just got used to doing it the way you're doing it. But the second part of that is actually the interview. So if it's a small business owner, working just by themselves, we do have a full 2-hour interview just to try to understand everything that the BizVision questionnaire has. So we kind of tie two pieces together, right? We have follow-up questions to, let's say, what's going on in the operations. We have a conversation about it. What does it really mean? The operations are not streamlined, or I'm having issues with my financials. Can you give us more examples? And so this interview really helps connect the two. And from there, we're able to gather the insights that I'm talking about. What are we observing as an objective set of eyes looking at the business from as an outsider, and what gaps are we noticing? And from this full report, we're able to actually provide the recommendations. And these recommendations, they're not just a list of, 20, 30 recommendations. We do make sure they are prioritized based on what we feel is the most important component, or the piece that will help solve maybe 5 different problems. We will prioritize it and help the business owner understand, if you do this, then 5 of these problems are going to be solved for you. And so we do also split it by an area of the business. So on a financial side, we can recommend, let's say a business owner never had a financial system. That's going to be the very first step. Let's set up the financial system. Let's help you understand your numbers. Let's help you build a financial statement so you can understand how well your business is really doing. And then on the operation side, we can identify the processes that maybe are not working or is not as efficient. And on the marketing side, it could be, I don't have a website that's SEO driven, or I don't have a social media account, and so we're really able to break it down by the piece, by the part of the business, and really streamline it into prioritized recommendations based on what we feel is the most important. And that really gives a business owner almost like a playbook. They can take it and they can start implementing them themselves, or they can work with us if they choose to. Let's say they want financials to be done by our company, and help us implement everything that you've recommended. We can do that. Or if they say, you know what, I think I got this, I have enough people on my team, I'm just going to free up some time and I'm going to implement X, Y, and Z, and then maybe a year later I'll come back and see where I am, and maybe I will need help at some point. And so we really try to make sure that we're empowering a business owner to take this information and use it if they prefer to do it that way. But we're also here if they need support, even if it's, some of our clients, we have a 15-minute call. They just want one question answered, and we'll hop
Sure.
on a call with them and we'll walk them through it, whatever issue they're having. So again, when I say we're flexible and we work with the business owner depending on their needs, it truly is that way, because we don't ever want to, you know, make a business owner dependent on IA business advisors. Our goal is really to empower a business owner to drive that success for themselves.
Yeah. That's a really good point. I'm glad you restated that, because that is, you know, as a business owner, we don't want to not necessarily relinquish control,
Hmm.
but we need sometimes you can't see the forest for the trees.
Right.
And I know in my own case, I have been encouraged by a number of folks to, hire some staff to do certain things, whether it be sales or operations, et cetera. And I've been reluctant, frankly, to be really direct, but reluctant to do that because it's expensive to hire staff
Hmm.
in hopes that in a few months they'll be very productive and be helping the business grow, as opposed to being an expense drain. Especially from a sales perspective. You want somebody to be knowledgeable on the product and be able to get out and go out in the field and sell a bunch of units, the GS tracking that we sell. Um, but in the meantime, you're paying salary and benefits and expenses, so it's kind of a chicken or the egg scenario.
Right.
And so that's, and obviously I from what you said, that's obviously something you can also map out and help somebody with from an HR standpoint,
Hmm.
maybe hire the right person or structure the right compensation plan that is affordable to the business,
Hmm.
fair to the potential future employee, and designed to help um, catapult this business to the next level.
Absolutely. And you're completely right. Um, how do you, as a business owner, identify who's the right person for this specific job? And, we have a full library of templates of different job descriptions and HR processes. employee handbooks, and we can help tailor that to the business owner's needs. And, sometimes business owners come to us because they want help hiring someone or firing someone. We've had those situations as well because it can be a
Sure.
very challenging
Yeah.
conversation, whether you're hiring or firing. And so, we try to take that objective approach and really help you understand what is that job about? What is the description? What do you really need from the next person you hire? How can they succeed in this role? And so, yeah, completely to your point, we do have a full library of templates that we can tap into.
Yeah, that's tremendous, and well, that the whole thing is awesome because um, I know how stressful it can be for so many different businesses, and everybody wants to grow, and
Right.
we all want to serve more clients and support our employees and our families and have a very valuable business that someday we might want to sell it or hand down to the next generation. And but knowing how to do that is not in everybody's wheelhouse. So I'm glad
Hmm.
that IA Business Advisors and that you personally are here to help us with that.
Thank you, Michael. I
Uh,
appreciate it.
any other examples you want to share with us? Any other scenarios, or was that without like the highlights?
I think those are the biggest highlights. Of course, we have so many success stories of our business owners,
Yeah.
but I really wanted to showcase that franchise because it really encompasses everything that IA Business Advisors can do for a business owner from different areas of the business. Like I said, starting from marketing, operations, sales, culture and leadership development, and of course, accounting and finance.
Yeah, that's great. I appreciate you sharing those examples of this, and I would continue success, personally as well as for your firm, my business advisors, because that is such a needed service to our community here. So thank you for that.
Thank you,
We're going to
Michael.
wrap this up here in just a minute, but let's recap how somebody would reach out to you should they say, "Gee, I need to talk to Bema tomorrow."
Of course. You can always reach me by phone. My phone number is 224-856-3309, or by email. It's Bema, Bema, at iabusinessadvisors.com. Or you can always go to our website, iabusinessadvisors.com. You can find a lot about our philosophy, our founder, Brian Smith, and his extensive experience in all kinds of business situations, as well as our partner, Greg Colino, and our team. You can contact us via our website as well, and somebody will get back to you. Or you can contact me directly.
Awesome. Thank you very much. I will put that information up on the screen so everyone will be able to see that and be able to see those details in the show notes as well. So I do encourage you to reach out to Emma and let her know that you heard about her first on iGuy podcast. Um, so as we wrap up, I'm going to just throw in a quick little commentary here about persistently track because that is my day job. I love doing this podcast. I'm so thankful to have the opportunity to come back and do some more podcasts. I'm glad my schedule freed up a little bit where I can continue to serve the community and meet and introduce awesome business partners to the community. But precisely tracking solutions, we really work with business owners that own commercial vehicles. We help these business owners enhance their growth and profit through using our GPS tracking technology. This technology has helped businesses know a lot of really important aspects of what's going on with their assets, where their vehicles are throughout the day, where their drivers are, how their drivers are driving their vehicles. And one of the things that's been going on lately was we are tracking a lot of assets. So these are like bobcats, trenchers, skid steers, trailers, lawnmowers, uh, Kubotas, four-wheel John Deere Gators, and Kubota units. These units have been stolen a lot, or in some cases misplaced. But we help the business owner know where their assets are throughout the day, if they need to recover them, or if they just need to know, where they are scattered out around the area on different job sites. One client in particular, we have tracking on their bobcats, and when they go on a construction site, they may leave their bobcat there for 2 weeks or 3 weeks. They put a geofence around that location, and they know every time the ignition goes on in the the asset, the bobcat, and if that bobcat were to leave that 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 area, construction area. So it just gives the operations team a good idea of what's going on and how their assets are being used or abused, or if they're being stolen, they can recover them. So hopefully, don't have too much theft, but the reality is we need to protect against that. So a lot of business owners are very interested in doing that, and we're doing a lot of installs and those types of assets lately. So if you happen to be a business owner that has these types of assets, we would love to have a conversation with you, talk a little bit more about how precise fleet tracking is different from every other company out in the market and how we can serve you directly. So we work here in the Chicago area, but we also have clients throughout the country. So we are not limited by the Chicagoland area at all. And we regularly install units throughout the country. So I want to reach out to Precise Fleet Tracking. I encourage you to call at 847 865 6008. That's 847 865 6008. Or you can email me at michael at precisefleettracking.com. That's michael at precisefleettracking.com. So thank you for your attention today. We appreciate you listening, subscribing, and sharing. Bema, again, thank you so much for being part of this today. I appreciate you sharing us with all the details from IE Business Advisors.
Thank you so much again, Michael. It was a pleasure to talk to you again and to learn more about you and share about IA Business Advisors. Thank you.
That's great. So, and to our listeners, thank you for being the most important part of our show. It would be nothing if we didn't have listeners like yourself. And we encourage you to subscribe and look forward to future episodes as we will continue to try to get out every week or two and with new episodes. So, thank you, and to all of you, make it a great week. Take care.
Thank you for listening to I Got a Guy podcast. For past podcasts and more information, go to igotaguypodcast.com. That's igotaguypodcast.com. Please share this podcast on your social media feeds and tune in again next week to I Got a Guy podcast.